Laugh at the cringe, learn from the crumble. This is Cringe and Crumble. Welcome to the podcast where honesty meets humor and the messy parts of life finally get their spotlight. I'm your host, Tranisha, and here we dive into dating, friendships, healing, and all the awkward in-betweens. Because here's the truth. Growth isn't always pretty, but it's always real. So let's get into it. Have you ever called it chemistry, but what you really had was anxiety? Like your chest gets tight and your mind won't stop spinning. You're replaying every interaction over and over again to the tune of, do they like me? Did I say too much? What do I do to keep them interested? Why haven't they text back? What does that mean? And somehow that whole internal spiral gets translated as, this must be love. This must be the spark. This must be chemistry. But then when someone is actually consistent and kind and even emotionally available, you're like, wait, why don't I feel anything? And now you're questioning yourself like, is this person boring or is it my nervous system just unfamiliar with peace? So today we're talking about the difference between chemistry and anxiety and what it looks like to retrain your heart to recognize stable love without needing chaos to make it feel real. Because if you think about it, stable shouldn't feel like settling, and intense doesn't always mean aligned. Welcome back to Cringe and Crumble. I'm your host, Tranisha, and if you're new here, this is the space where we laugh at the cringe and we never skip the crumble. I want to talk about what sparked this episode. I came across a Reddit post from a 25-year-old guy who said, I think I've been confusing anxiety in relationships with love and chemistry. And now I don't know how to get excited about stable relationships. And when I read it, I was like, you know what? I can connect with that. And I think a lot of us can. When you've been conditioned by childhood, past relationships, and even emotional neglect and consistency to chase love, your body starts to associate uncertainty with connection. And then peace shows up and you don't recognize it. So today, we're going to break down what chemistry and anxiety actually looks like, but with compassion and actual tools. Because if you've ever been addicted to the spark and then realized the spark was actually stress, this episode is definitely for you. So let's start off with the definition of chemistry and anxiety. What is chemistry? Not the definition from the dictionary, but the lived experience of chemistry. When we say chemistry, most people think about butterflies, obsession, electric attraction. They can't stop thinking about the other person and they have this amazing thrill of like, what if, right? Chemistry is that unique feeling between two people that shows up in the interaction. Not just they're hot or they're nice and not just they like me, but when we're together, something clicks. We're responsive, we're in sync, and the conversation just flows. The energy is mutual, and there's that warmth and curiosity and that sense of peace. Real chemistry includes attraction, yes, but it also includes emotional safety, presence, and that sense that you can be yourself without performing. Here's something I want you to think about when you think about chemistry. Chemistry expands you, and you feel more like you, not less like you. So with that in mind, let's define anxiety. Anxiety is not a character flaw. It's just your body alarm system. It's the part of you that says something may not be safe, something may not be stable, and something might hurt me. And in dating, anxiety can sound like, why haven't they texted me? Did I do something wrong? Or do they like me? Or am I just annoying? I need to say the perfect thing. If I don't lock this down, they're going to actually leave me. And anxiety often looks like hypervigilance, overthinking, you're obsessing, people-pleasing, and you're just waiting for that other shoe to drop. And so when you think of anxiety, I want you to think of this distinction. Anxiety contracts you. You get smaller, you get tense, and you start managing yourself to manage the outcome. So if chemistry expands you, think about it. Anxiety contracts you, and that's going to be your major clue to whether this is anxiety or chemistry. So let's get into the Reddit post. So he said he realized that in this relationship, he confused his anxiety for chemistry and love. He described the chest-tight feeling while thinking, does she like me? Or what can I do to spend more time with her? He said his last relationship was nothing but highs and lows, hot and cold, and he would be unhappy. Then she'd show effort, and suddenly his anxiety would disappear. Then he said something really important. He noticed that women who showed a lot of interest in him, he didn't feel that chemistry with them, and he thought they were clingy. But looking back, he realized they were just available. And because they were available, he didn't feel that spark. Now, he's dating someone new. Let's just call her Sarah, right? Sarah, she's very kind. She's interesting. She even asked him out. And he enjoys being with her, but he doesn't feel that anxious excitement. And he's like, is this chemistryless or is this what stable love feels like? And he shared he's been in therapy and his therapist described his ex as neglectful and verbally abusive. So let's give him grace because he's actually doing his homework, ladies, and he's not blaming women and he's not romanticizing toxicity. But what he is saying is, I don't want this cycle anymore, which is a level of awareness that everyone deserves. So, what's really happening in this pose? When someone is hot and cold, your brain gets hooked on the relief. Cold equates to you panic, you chase, and then you overthink. And hot equates to you get relief. Your body floods with finally. So it's like cold equates to panic and hot is relief again. So the cycle is very powerful and very intense because it's not love and it's not compatibility. It's not even chemistry. It's just what I like to call intermittent reinforcement. That is the same thing that makes people addicted to slot machines because when the reward is unpredictable, your brain tries harder. And in dating, unpredictable love teaches you I have to earn closeness, I have to perform for warmth, and I have to chase consistency. So the moment someone becomes consistent, your nervous system goes quiet. And you make the mistake of thinking that that quietness is no spark. But sometimes that quietness is just what we need. No alarm, just peace. With that, I want to actually talk about the attachments that goes along with that. Because sometimes people hear anxious attachment and they think, I'm broken or too much. And the answer is, no, you're not. Because attachment is just the way your nervous systems learn to stay connected. It's a strategy your body picked when you were taught, consciously or not, how do I keep love close? And usually we fall into a few common patterns, and I like to call them attachments. Our first pattern is the secure attachment, right? It doesn't mean you feel anxious, but it just feels that you trust what people show you. You can communicate without panicking, and you don't feel like love is a game, and you believe you're worthy of consistency. Secure is basically, I can be close and I can be okay. Now, on to the next attachment, which is anxious attachment, more like a hyperconnection. Anxious attachment tends to sound like, do they still like me? I need reassurance. I overthink everything. And if they pull away, I panic. Or if they're inconsistent, I obsess. And the hard part is anxious attachment can feel like passion because you're thinking about them constantly, but constant thinking isn't always love. Sometimes it's fear because fear of losing and fear of not being enough or even fear of being rejected can make you very anxious, and anxiety will try to solve those fears by clinging to the relationship. So the next attachment style is that avoidant attachment style, which is completely opposite of the anxious attachment style because the avoidant attachment is the hyper independent person. So it's more like an avoidant attachment tends to sound like I feel suffocated. They want too much, or I'm fine on my own. When it gets real, I shut down, or I like people who don't need me. Avoiding people aren't cold. They're often just protecting themselves from feeling dependent on anyone else. I can kind of find myself sometimes like this as well. So closeness can feel like danger to them. The other attachment style we're going to talk about is the anxious avoidant dance. This is where so many sparks live, right? We love sparks. But this is when one person chases closeness and the other person pulls away. The distance creates anxiety. And then when closeness returns, it feels like relief. And the relations becomes this vicious cycle because it's pursue, withdraw, panic, relief, repeat. But the cycle can feel intoxicating, not because it's healthy, but because it keeps the nervous system activated. So if your spark is mostly happening when you feel unsure, that definitely isn't chemistry. That's attachment. That's your body reacting to inconsistency. And what I love about this Reddit post is that he's already noticing that, oh, I get hooked when it's hot and cold. That awareness is everything because once you can name the pattern, you can interrupt it and start asking better questions than, do I feel butterflies? To, do I feel safe? Right? So there's some research about this as well. There's a study that is often summarized online where women report more attraction and spent more time thinking about a guy when they were uncertain about how much he liked them compared to when they knew he definitely did. So basically, they like the unavailable guy even when there's an available guy. So uncertainty can increase preoccupation for them, and preoccupation can masquerade as attraction. Because if you're thinking about someone all day, your brain assumes, I must really like them. But here's the twist. Sometimes you don't like them more. It's just that you're thinking about them more, if that makes sense. And your thinking isn't romance. It's sometimes your brain trying to solve a puzzle. Your mind is like, what does this text mean? Why are they different today? Are they pulling away? Am I about to get abandoned? How do I get back to the good version of them? That's not chemistry. That's your nervous system doing overtime. And if someone consistently makes you feel unsure, your body may confuse that emotional instability as passion. So you're probably thinking, why stable can feel boring then? Because if this is what I may equate passion to, is that if your template for love has always involved anticipation, worry, chasing, or winning someone back, emotional spikes, then stability will feel really flat, not because it's wrong, but because it's unfamiliar, right? Your nervous system is used to being activated. So when someone is calm and consistent and even direct, there's nothing to chase. And your brain goes, where's the thrill then? I need a chase. But the thrill wasn't always love. The thrill was adrenaline, if you think about it. The thrill was that uncertainty, and that thrill was that dopamine spike after relief. So if you're listening to this and you're dating someone stable, after spending time with them, do you feel more grounded or more anxious? Because chemistry can be exciting and grounding, while anxiety is exciting and draining. Remember that. So let's think about the chemistry myth that we've all learned about, because a lot of us have been trying to build healthy relationships with a definition of chemistry that basically was written by Sex in the City or a situationship that we were in. So let's name a few myths about chemistry. Myth number one is, if it's not instant, it's not real. So basically that instant connection. We've been taught that if you don't feel fireworks by date two, it's a no, or that instant, like I'm in love feeling. This is not it, because there are two types of attraction. One is instant, which is visceral, is that physical and it's familiar. And the other is secure attraction. It grows when safety grows. Sometimes the instant spark is real chemistry, but sometimes it's familiarity with a pattern. Your body recognizes the emotional texture of someone who feels just out of reach, not because they're special, but because they're familiar. And familiarity can feel like fate. So, myth number two, butterflies equals chemistry. I hate this one. I always hated this thought that butterflies equals chemistry because I just feel like it's never true. Sometimes butterflies are excitement, right? And sometimes butterflies are your nervous system saying something here is uncertain. Because when you're emotionally safe, your body doesn't have to brace. So if your butterflies feel like your tight chest, or you have a racing thoughts, a loss of appetite, doom scrolling, you're checking your phone, that's not romance. That's just activation. Your body's trying to tell you to do fight or flight. Myth number three, chaos means passion. This just reminds me of the Jersey Shore with Sammy and Ronnie, right? This one is really sneaky because it can look like intense conversations, makeup moments. We fight because we care. They're just guarded. It's complicated, but it's deep. The passion doesn't need instability to exist. If a relationship has you constantly trying to earn the good version of them, That's not chemistry, that's just chasing. Myth number 4, if they're constant, if they're consistent, they're clingy. When someone is available, your brain can label it as clingy because there's no chase, no suspense, and no problem to solve. And listen, if someone is actually overwhelming, that's real because that means that they're really clingy. You should get rid of them. But a lot of the time, clingy is just code for they like me openly and I don't know how to relax inside of that. And that's not a moral failing. That's just our nervous system learning a new baseline. So a soft truth about this is that you don't need a love that makes you dizzy, gives you butterflies or whatever you want to call it. Sometimes healthy love feels like I can breathe. I could be myself. I don't feel confused. Like you really do feel at peace. And if you're not used to that, it can feel very much understimulating at first. Not because the person is wrong for you, but because your body is recalibrating and it needs to learn how to be at peace. So let's make this practical. Let's see what are those signs for chemistry and anxiety. So signs that this is chemistry, which are healthy sparks, are you feel curious and open. You're attracted, but you can still think clearly. You feel more confident around them, not less, and they follow through. You feel emotionally safe enough to be honest, and your nervous system settles after connection. Signs that anxiety is dressed up as chemistry, you start feeling urgency to secure them. You're monitoring text and tone, trying to decipher what they actually mean. You feel like you're auditioning and their interest feels inconsistent. You experience emotional whiplash and you're often waiting for the next shift. You feel relief when they give you crumbs, which is the bottom of the barrel. So, what I want you to think about here and what I want you to remember is that if the spark requires suffering, it's not a spark. It's a warning sign. Just remember that. So let's think about the green flags then, because we want stability. Stable love isn't supposed to feel chaotic. What should it feel like? These are green flags. Because I don't want anyone hearing stable and think, oh, this is very predictable. It's annoying. It's boring. It's dry. I have no desire. It's not like that. There's real love out there for us guys, right? So stable love can be deeply romantic. And here are a couple of green flags that lets you know that you're actually headed in the right direction. Green flag number 1 is clarity. No one wants to feel confused. You're not decoding anything, you're not spiraling, and you're not trying to figure out what you are. They're consistent enough that your nervous system doesn't have to do detective work. Green flag number 2, they follow through. They say what they mean and mean what they say. Take that with what you want to take with it, but it's clarity and they follow through. That's all that really matters. Plans aren't a maybe. Affection isn't a reward you earn. And consistency isn't something you have to audition for, which is important because consistency really matters. Just showing up can go a mile. Green flag number 3 is the repair. So when you're thinking like, Tranisha, what's repair, right? Stable love, there's a conflict as well. Like it's not all rainbows and unicorns and butterflies. There can be disagreements, but there's this repair. I hear you. I'm sorry. Let's talk about it. There's no punishment. There's no disappearing and there's no silent treatment. Green flag number 4 is kind of like a sense of home. It's that warmth without performance, right? You don't feel like you have to be the best version of yourself 24/7. You can be tired, you can be soft, you can be human, you can be Olandria with her Nick because they don't start withdrawing their affection because you had a bad day. They want to see that soft side of you, that real human version of yourself. And that's when you know you're in the right space. Green flag number 5, your life gets bigger. In an anxiety relationship, your world gets smaller. You stop doing hobbies, you stop seeing your friends, and you feel like you're just managing a relationship 24/7. But in a stable love, your world expands, which is amazing because you still feel like you and you still have your interests and you have your own autonomy and the relationship. And for you, this relationship is like the icing on the cake because it's just an extra addition to your life and it's not taking over. He's just adding value or she's just adding value. Green flag number 6, you feel safe enough to be honest. So you're not hiding behind any type of facade. You don't have to feel like honesty will cost you love. You can say, That didn't sit right with me. I need reassurance today, or I need more time, or I don't feel comfortable. And they won't punish you for having needs. So, green flag number 7, desire without instability. Yes, this still is an attraction. It's not attraction fueled by fear. It's attraction fueled by safety, curiosity, admiration, and even play. It's that emotional closeness that everyone wants in their life. You're not turned on because you might lose them, but you're turned on because you like who they are. Sometimes stable love doesn't hit you like lightning, but it starts like a candle. It starts off warm, steady, and then it's quiet. And over time, it becomes heat. So, what does this mean for him, for Sarah, for anyone trying to choose stable love? First, this matters because stable love doesn't mean automatic. You don't force yourself into a relationship you don't want. That's number one. And you don't override your intuition because your intuition is something that's always guiding you. And if you really listen to it, it will take you to the right places. And you don't date someone just because they're nice. Just don't do it. But you do give yourself room to learn the difference between what is calm and numb, what's peace and lack of attraction. So, how do you do that? Give yourself a timeline. If you're enjoying someone and they're healthy, give it a real chance. Give it enough time for your nervous system to adjust because sometimes that chemistry has to grow when safety grows. Create amazing experiences because a stable relationship doesn't need chaos, but it does need that sense of feeling alive. I like to say fun experiences, adventures. Stability isn't the absence of excitement. It's excitement without emotional instability. All right. After each day, check your body, your mind, your energy. Does your body feel calm, neutral, activated? Or does your mind feel present or is it spiraling? And is your energy feeling expanded or contracted? Because if you feel calm and expanded, that's a green flag. But if you feel activated and contracted, you don't call that chemistry yet. That's anxiety. Look for consistency over intensity. Honestly, these days, we all are just praying for consistency, right? Intensity is easy. Consistency is very rare. I think a lot of us, especially if we've been through inconsistency, end up with this internal belief that love has to feel like a rush, right? Like the story has to be dramatic and you have to earn it. And I've had seasons where I didn't even realize how much I was bracing, which I'm sure a lot of us have been, not because someone was necessarily doing something huge or obvious, but because the connection itself felt uncertain. And uncertainty does something to us. It makes you try to be better, pretty, smarter, cooler, less needy, less nerdy, but it makes you overanalyze your own humanity. And then you confuse the constant self-monitoring with love because you're thinking about them all the time. And you're like, wow, I'm really into this. But sometimes you're not really into them. Sometimes you're just trying not to lose them. And when you finally experience someone who feels clear, someone whose affection doesn't feel like a prize or a puzzle, it can feel quiet and it can feel almost suspicious. Like, wait, where's the adrenaline? This is awkward. And that's the moment you realize maybe what I called chemistry before was just my nervous system being activated. And maybe peace isn't so boring and maybe peace is the point, which it really is. And maybe the most romantic thing someone can offer you is consistency that doesn't cost you your self-respect. Amen. So if you've never experienced stable love, it might not feel like fireworks. It might feel like just breathing again. And that is what really counts. And I want to touch on grief too, because the Reddit poster said something also in his post. Still hurts like an MFer seeing her with her new boyfriend. And if you think about that, that's really real. That's really raw. That's honest. Even when the relationship wasn't healthy, the grief can still feel massive because sometimes what you're grieving isn't the person, it's the hope you poured into the story. It's that fantasy we all had in our brains. It's that maybe this is the time. It's that version of you that thought love meant you had to fight to be chosen. So if you logically know it wasn't good, but emotionally you still crave it, you're not crazy. You're just detoxing from a pattern. That can feel like withdrawal. So be gentle with yourself. So here's the reframe I want you to carry. The spark you're chasing may not be chemistry. It might be your nervous system scanning for uncertainty. So instead of asking, do I feel butterflies? Try asking yourself, do I feel safe being fully myself? Instead of, do they make me feel nervous? Ask, do they make me feel seen? Instead of, I can't stop thinking about them. Ask, is this curiosity or is it just hypervigilance? Because some people feel like a spark, but they burn you. And some people feel like that warmth that you need and they heal you. So let's do a quick reflection before I leave you guys. If you're driving, keep your eyes on the road. But if you're home, you can take a breath. Think of someone you've had chemistry with. Now, I want you to answer these questions. Number 1, did I feel calm or anxious most of the time? Number 2, was I free to be myself or was I managing my behavior? Number 3, did this connection add peace or did it take peace? Number 4, did I feel chosen or did I feel like I had to earn being chosen? Now think of a connection that felt stable. Ask yourself this. Did I confuse calm with boredom? Was there affection, just not adrenaline? Or did I give it enough space to grow? This isn't about forcing outcomes, but it's about teaching your body a new language. To the Reddit poster and to anyone else that's listening who feels like, I only feel alive when love feels uncertain, I want you to know you're not broken, you're not incapable of love, and you're not doomed to chase chaos forever because that's tiring. You're learning, and stable love might feel quiet at first, not because it's missing something, but because it's not triggering your alarm system. And that's not boring. Remember, consistency doesn't equal boring. That is healing. If this episode resonated, share it with a friend who always calls chaos chemistry. And share with yourself by making one new choice this week. A choice that prioritizes clarity, consistency, and emotional safety, because you deserve love that doesn't require you to lose yourself to feel something. Alrighty, so that's it. That's our Cringe Crumble episode for this week. Hope to see you guys next week. Laugh at the cringe, learn from the crumble. This is Cringe and Crumble. Until next time.